Hey League, got my one and only RTN tomorrow. I know of 2 Dios going. Should I slot 6 Drax into my sideboard for them like we used to? Or can we fatigue off of 3 blocks now? Hey gang, what's the most anti-Guardian version of Levia we can build ATM? I'm presuming all in on Blood Debt, Howl Looping with a couple Shadow Realm Guardians in there for good measure? Just wanted to say a quick thank you for people answering my questions here. Took down my RTN 7 to 1.
All right, my Apex Bone Breakers, this is the most exciting day of this 4-week RTN season because we're interviewing the one, the only winner of a Road to Nationals with goddamn Levia. And it's James Adams, who, if you've been a part of the League of Levia, you'll remember this guy. Longtime Levia player, and he's done it. He's brought home a W for our girl, and the list is insane, and his story is insane. So I just want to say huge hello before we get started. How you doing, James?
I'm very well, thank you, dude. How are you?
I'm obviously thrilled because I love talking about Levia. I love seeing her get these, slow start to the season, of course, but I like to see a win here or there. We're not trying to speedrun her to LL or anything, but making headway into that progress even a little bit. It's such a challenge. It's such a struggle for us to do it. It feels so good when it happens, and I'm so happy that it was you, my friend. So I want to dig in a little bit to you, your story. How did you start with Flesh and Blood? Where do you play, and how long have you been on Levia?
Yeah, so I started in Manuscrew in Northampton. I think my first ever game was a CC chain mirror that I was being instructed by, and I was like, I don't know what's going on, but it's cool as hell. So I've always been a bit of an edgelord, I guess. About 2 years ago, I moved to Bristol, and now we've got a huge scene there. There's like 27 people at Armories like every week, which in the UK anyway is like insane. So shout out to Bristol Baddies. It's real good. And I also play with the Toxic testing team as well, so shout out to those guys. But yeah, I've always, as you said, from day one, I was a Levia fan. Mostly out of necessity, I guess. Like I bought in at Tails pre-release. I bought 2 boxes and pulled a Cold 4 New Horizons and sold it.
There you go.
And was like, I want to buy into Oldhim. He looks cool. And was like, oh, I can get like his shield. And then I looked at Levia and was like, oh, I can get the whole deck. Cool.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
Yeah, so it's been like that since day one, really. And yeah, I've stuck with her through thick and thin, as you probably know. I've dipped in and out. I've played a bit of Oldhim eventually, played a bit of, quite a few different decks now, to be honest. But I always go back to Levia. She's my day one,
Well, so what about right now specifically with Viserai leaving? Was that like a calling card for you to absolutely come back and revisit?
Yeah, I mean, like, if we had Viserai for, like, longer, like, if Viserai hadn't had out, I'd probably have taken him, because, like, looking at the stats.
Gross.
I know. But
dude, the UK has gotten to you, man. Hamish is all up in your head.
Well, shout out to Hamish, because he's from Northampton as well, so I've played with him several times. But yeah, I mean, Viserai was obviously crazy good, and I think it's a good thing he left when he did, because we didn't get, like, the Lexi issue, where it's like... It was so obviously the most broken deck, but we just had it and had it. So I could only play one RTN. It was this weekend, so it wasn't like a deliberate thing to bring Levia, but it was like, well, Viserai's gone. I don't really own any of the decks at the minute. It's just Brute, and I'm there on Elo anyway. So I was like, I'm going with no pressure. Like, let's just play 5 games, and I'm qualified, right? So never really anticipated winning the whole thing, but here we are.
Yeah, your story in the League Levia, I'll put some screenshots on the intro, but it was quite hilarious. Like, within a 20-hour difference, you basically said, hey guys, what's Levia up to these days? And then you came back and said, oh, I won my RTN. So, kind of insane. So let's take a look at the deck, and then you can walk us through. This one is spicy. So, deck list on screen. First thing I want to call out, I find this hilarious. I saw show notes. I clicked it. Like, oh, what has he written up for us? This is a description copy pasted from like a Levia build 2 years ago that I posted. So props to you for just the copy paste. That's what I do too, dude.
I'm getting exposed.
But I find it so funny. But look, apart from that, the deck is already interesting because if you've been following the Levia journey, it's obviously not Bone Basher, and it's also not the most recent thing that I've been toying with, which is like full replacement of draw discards. first thing that you see on your screen almost is that you're still on Savage Sash Wild Ride package. Pulpings, I think very smartly have kind of made it out of the list, but that's obviously still very core to how you're playing this version of Levia. So would you describe it as still like this more balls to the wall aggro build playing into variants, or like where's your head at with where the build is?
So I think like it's a bit of both. I think it can do either, which is like the good thing about it. So like I'd say more recently I've been playing Levia at armories and stuff like that anyway, and I've been keeping an eye on what you do obviously as well. And I think I took a list that was very similar to your recent one at the armory, and I went 2-1, but they weren't. It didn't quite click. I think I've been so used to like the sash pilled aggro Levia that I was like, I don't know if I can like mentally adapt 100% to like a new slower build. So I'd call it like a hybrid that can tech either side. And I think for me anyway, I think the cheater cards are still really important for like Enigma and things like that. But to be honest, Sash is there in the main board, but when we played, we'd go through the matchups. But I think I brought it in like 2 games and didn't crack it either time. So like,
oh wow, that's wild. Yeah, because obviously Husk is still making the list, of course.
Yeah. So yeah, when I say like there was no like the matchups aren't doing, there's nothing in this Fabry link is really correct. So this is going to be fun for you to figure out.
That's okay. I barely share correct sideboarding anyway, because I think vibes-based sideboarding is what challenges you and makes you better as a deck builder regardless. But so speaking of some of the things that you have added fresh to the build here, you did run 2 Sigil of Cycles. What was your experience with this card overall? Because I think obviously it's been performing like above expectations on like the more casual level. You went ahead and just brought it to an event. How did it feel like in the tournament itself?
Yeah, so I thought it was really interesting. Like watching your video, I was like, 3 seems like a lot, and I think you're on 3 Diabolics as well. So I was like, he's trying some stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
gonna,
just
like,
cooking.
Pare it back a bit. I'm gonna like take your like you've knocked away at the rock, and I'm just gonna chisel away the marble a bit and get to the statue. So I was like, I think 2 is okay. We'll try 2 because I think one of my armories I played it. I was like, it was quite good. And then I will say it's funny because I got called out in Toxic for this by Liam, but I said like, it feels really bad when you've played Sigil and then you draw into a Blood Rush, because it's doing the same thing. Like you want the pop on a different turn, like to be an extender on a different turn. And he's like, oh no, I just drew a Blood Rush. And I was like, yeah, I get that I'm moaning about that. So there's like the slightest bit of anti-synergy there, but I think at 2 it is like perfect. I honestly think it's amazing. Like it probably won me the Kano game because I got to play it turn 0.
Oh wow.
And I played it turn 0 against Prism in the final as well. And I think it's one of those cards that I don't know if I could see running it as a 3-off, but as a 2-off, as an extender piece, like when you're piling on the pressure, which this aggro build can do a bit better, I think anyway. It can really help make use of that full hand.
Sweet. Well, yeah, speaking of your blue base, it is actually pared down quite a bit beyond what we normally see. You've got a lot of these 2-of counts. It's the Sigil, it's the Barragings, which have made it back, and honestly, this is like one of my favorite cards in Levia. It just feels like one of the first things you, like you're saying, chisel away at, because it only sometimes feels like it wins you the game, but when it does, it feels like the best card in your deck. Unworldly Bellow for a little bit of banish synergy, but then, funny enough, you're missing Diabolics overall, and that's normally a kind of quasi 6, right? That makes these draw discard builds get to that magic 45 6s in deck. I think this build is actually exactly 2 short. 43. So normally those Diabolics in that 1 or 2 count is what smooths over the entire draw discard package. So how did you feel about kind of manipulating the blue base, removing the Diabolics, still having draw discards? What was the whole like feeling?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was Levia is a weird. Levia is a weird.
Levia, that's right.
I know, I'm so bad. So the English, we're so lazy when we speak. We're just like whatever rolls. Yeah, it's terrible. You'll get used to it at Pro Tour. Like, it'll be fine.
Yeah, when you're in top 8, right? I'll have to say Levia a lot.
When we're doing another deck tag.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the blue base it's weird with Levia. Like most decks, you want that consistency. Like everything's a 3-of or whatever. Like you take the best things. I honestly think like this, like we say, like again with vibes, is like it just felt correct. Like I knew I wanted a couple in like with Unworldly and with Barraging, they're both 3-block blues, which is just amazing, especially when we're priced into running Deadwoods and Doomsday. That's 4 non-blocks. And in regards to dive bot, sorry.
Yeah, even kind of Reckless when you start drawing it first cycle, yeah.
Yeah, so Reckless for me, it could easily be, it's in that slot which could easily be Diabolic or Iberfidia. It probably is best being Diabolic, but I'd not run Reckless in a Levia list for probably the best part of a year, easily. So this was a 20-something person tournament, and I'd say, I think like 8, 9, maybe 10 people were traveling from Bristol, so we're part of the Bristol Bad Beats community. And I just thought, they're not prepared for Reckless against me. They don't respect Reckless. So let's just pop one in. Let's just throw one in.
That's exactly how it works, right? It's you as the player. Sometimes you start to question yourself. Do I really need it to win? I feel like it has, like, I'm winning anyway, or I just never drew it in time. But it is about that unexpected element. It's not really about how you're tracking your wins with it. It's if your opponents will even respect it. Period. So yeah, definitely we're in that cycle of, Levi's not on Reckless. Let's bring it. And
yeah, it's literally like the Kano cycle, right? Of like, when is Kano good? It's the same thing. We've got our own mini version with Reckless, but I mean, it won me one of my games against the Mario, and my one loss against KO was it was on the top of my deck. So it was one card off, and he was on 1 health. So like, it could have won me the game that I lost. So, it's still got its place. We all know it's good, right?
You needed that one extra draw in your deck by having a 3rd Sigil cycles, bro. I don't know what to tell you. Actually, funny enough, that is a small thing I've been tinkering with, is if you are on 3 Sigils, can you up the Reckless count? Because it won't turn on claws, but you can, just pitch or rather discard another 6 and then make these blues that otherwise, when you draw on multiple aren't good, sink into the claws. So been trying to test that out. It's cool to see it all in a deck that we can all take and start to tinker with. Obviously, there's some other things that do stand out about what the list is cooking with here. You did take the triple Hungerings back in the list. Did you feel like it was more the cost curve? Was it more the break point? What felt good about this card?
Yeah, so I mean, I was trying to get, I guess I was being greedy. I was trying to get the best of both worlds, like the old Sashfield aggro list, and then what you've been cooking recently with the slower stuff, and like the recursion. And I knew I knew I was traveling up with a Prism. I knew that maybe another Prism would be there as well, who did turn out to be there, who made it to the final. And yeah, it's a natural popper. It's a true popper, as we call it. So it just felt correct. And I was also traveling up with a Dio, which also took some of my thoughts went to like 3 blocks and stuff to try and change that. So there's it's like a role player, right? It does quite a few different things there.
Sure. So the other big change that I'm looking at is the yellow base, which really love seeing like whittled down counts. But I'm surprised because one of the things you did trim down on is Mark the Beast, which is normally the synergistic glue with draw discards, even with like the Sigil play. But I guess you cut Diabolics, right? So you're looking for less of this effect. Is that kind of the same thought process?
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, as well, I was respecting the Dio maybe a bit too much, but I know that we can't race the Dio, and it was like,
so you're full fatigue on the Dio. Oh, I see.
Yeah, I fully fatigued. So, and he was my round 1, so it was a good thing I prepared. But I full fatigued the Dio, and I drew Mark of the Beast against him in the same hand I drew Guardian. So luckily I just pitched into Guardian. And it saved me a Max V with a red boom grenade on top. So,
amazing.
So Guardian literally won me that game because I finished with like 3 life. So yeah, I mean, it's good, it's really good, and it could easily be a second of with like Sen packing going out or something. But Sen packing, I think, does a lot of work as well. Like it's weird. It's like, if it was a red 2 cost, I think it'd just be a 3 of in every brute list. Honestly, like it's so good, and I think it's nice splashing it in because people, the same with the Reckless thing, people don't expect Levia to be running any sort of disruption or interaction. So when you end the chain with it, it almost always like ruins their day. And
for sure.
A couple of times I played, and it just did exactly what I needed to. So
yeah, the kind of gotcha element works a lot better when you are like the Sash draw discard build, obviously. But even on the slower builds, I think Sen packing, it's actually something I've been trying to fit back in, maybe the sideboard, just because when you do a flip turn, you know, when you do block with Apex, when you've got these very like critical parts in a game, some kind of disruption is obviously relevant. And like what you're saying, a lot of people don't respect disruption anyway. They kind of just sack armor because they're, I don't know what they're really tracking for, but they just don't expect the on hit at all. You get them with just that like little spice, and sometimes that helps you skill gap. It's not going to work against people who do just hold armor, but it can work for the people who don't, and that is like a fair part of
100%. I think a good side point as well to on top of that is that we're moving into this meta that is it's weird. It's a bit of a wild west, which is where I think, you know, Levia really shines anyway. But you get either the hard aggro, which can be quite tough, but then you also get the other side of that where everyone's on like 6 D reacts, 9 D reacts, and twice out of the 3 times I think I played this card, it was hitting a D react from their arsenal.
Yeah. Oh.
And then they're just like, oh, like the value, like, and it's just so good when you get that D react out of arsenal. It's brilliant.
No, that's huge actually, because D reacts right now are a big part of the game, and just people trying to smooth over like how much value they're getting per turn cycle, and then for us it's kind of withheld how much we can force pulping. So now there's like a bit of that punish back and forth because we can a little bit with send packing. That's interesting. Okay, so we're looking at the sideboard then, and I love it because we've already talked about it a little bit, but you went in with vibes-based sideboarding. No huge plan, no heuristics going in of like what exactly is swapping for what. And I really prefer that way of looking at a sideboard because you get to just sit down, have an idea of your head. Okay, I want to trim down like, what have we got? 6 cards. Which cards aren't going to help me? And you just start thumbing them out of the list. I feel like that with Levia, since you pretty much know that you want to be at 60 cards in every matchup, just feels so good. You sit down and just pull out an exact quantity of cards that aren't going to function. Is that basically how you were going through your sideboard process? You've nailed it really. Like, I think generally speaking, to be fair, like the vibes were there, but it was like 90% of the time the plan was to remove 2 wild rides for like 2 recursion pieces, or 1 wild ride for 1 recursion piece. Like, well, the wild ride was like the flex slot for recursion coming in. Other than in Prison, where I wanted the go again, I wanted to press them really hard. It also turns on your claws, and then you can like claw and then at them, and then claw into a aura kind of thing. So yeah, other than that matchup, I think it was normally a wild ride or 2 came out generally for 1 or 2 pieces of recursion. But and with DO as well, it's like if it doesn't block, it's coming out as best I can. I think there was like 3 or 4 non-blocks in the list still. And just if it has any number in its bottom right corner, I'm sending it. Like it's okay. Sweet. So then Ghostly Visit, Guardian of the Shadow Realm, Hell from Beyond, Hungry Demagon, obviously the recursion we're talking about. You also are doing the thing mainboarding Deep Rooted Evil. I really like that right now. So between all of them, what would you say you got the most value of recursion wise?
So Guardian, bro.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Oh, the card of the moment. Yeah, this thing, like, it's just so insane. Like, so I've already sort of spoiled it, but I won the first game with pretty much what won me was having Guardian with my armor block still intact when he had max V and a red boom grenade to threaten. Like, that's huge. And I finished with like 3 health, so 100% if that connects at all, I don't make it, I don't think. And then in my top 8 game against Dawnblade Dorinthia, it was in my banish zone. I managed to like arsenal it at like turn 1 or 2, so I got to cheat reprise anyway already off the arsenal, fine, and then banish it like 3 or 4 turns in, and then when I do the flip, and then he keeps a full hand because he's a bit behind. He's on like 3 health. He's playing quite aggro. Like 1 armor block left. I flip with like 10 blood debt, which I hate doing. Like, that's way too much for me normally, but like, you know, he's basically dead. And yeah, he keeps like a full hand to try and bait something, and I just go like Guardian from Banish, and he just like looks at me. And he flips his arsenal over and then just gives me the fist bump, and I'm like, what? And he's just like, yeah, that's just
can't beat that, bro. It's the singular like most juiced turn cycle in the world. It's so good.
Like, he kept a 5-card hand going to 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
to send this thing to be, because he was like gambling on this be at one turn he can win this game, and it's just like shut him down completely.
Yeah, and you just have like a 7-card hand, right? Like they keep a 5-card. Oh well, this turn cycle I have 7 cards actually.
Yeah,
that's insane.
He had to read it and was like, no, but it's an action. I was like, yeah, but, and then sort of explained the interaction, and he was just like, oh man, that's crazy. And I was like, yeah.
That's right, so, dude. Why wasn't expanded limbs? Why wasn't that a blood debt direct, bro? Come on, we need more of this. This is like the coolest thing in the game. All right, well, the pulpings, you then kind of mentioned, when you are racing, when you know there's no D-reacts, you're bringing them in. What were you feeling wouldn't make the cut when you were in those matchups? What came out?
When I'm racing, it's pretty much they came in as, I think I took out a couple of hungering slaughter beasts in those matchups. Just because, again, they're a bit slower, but they're fine. But I think I went to 1. Yeah, that makes sense. There's 2 pulpings. And I took... I kept Deep-Rooted Evil because it's still yellow. It's such a blur, man. It was... that Kano... So I played Kano round 2, and that's when the pulpings came in. I never saw my mate Sam on Enigma. But against Kano, I think we were done by turn 3. So it was just like full send. And again, that was thanks to the Sigil of Cycles turn 0, like turning my first turn into like claw, swing big.
Graveyard fill and go wide in a single card? What the hell? No variants? Are you kidding me? The best card in the game.
Right? Crazy. So yeah, it's... I think the power of the list is like at RTN level, it can do either thing, I think, really.
All right, and then for the equipment, you've also got some interesting inclusions here. You brought Skullhorn back, obviously expecting Kano specifically. You did face a Kano. Were you going all the way to like Arcane Barrier 3 with Lantern, or just leaving it with Skullhorn and Grasp for kind of like that Wildfire block, that's it?
So, funny story, I flipped the equipment and I flipped just 2 claws. I was like, oh damn, like I think this is okay. Like,
yeah, it's good.
Well, I've done it now, it's fine. But I think it's hard because, like I say, the Sigil of Cycles being able to like push that wide that early without turning on Blood Debt was huge. But I do think maybe going forward, I'd probably play with the Lantern as well, and just go AB3, Spellvoid 2, and just be super safe, because I think you can't. It's so hard for them to get us through that. And like he reacted to my Blood Rush as you would, and then I think he hit like 2 pots or something along those lines, and like one of them was the opting pot, and he opted 2 to the bottom. And when he opts 2 to the bottom on that kill turn, well, Blood Rush is on the stack, I'm just like, we're cooking. We're cooking. So it was like one of the fastest games I've ever played of Flesh and Blood. It was actually wild, but it's hard. I think going forward, I might be on AB3, to be fair.
Interesting.
But at that time, I just went AB2, send it.
Interesting. Do you find yourself pitching outside of just the kill turn, or can you convert most hands? Because you can always run like Spoiled Skull and Spellvoid 4 effectively. I do quite like that.
If I remember correctly, I pitched once outside of the kill turn, and my hands were so wide, like it was just crazy. And it's important as well, I think, on the end of your turn to like try and hold back a card to either Arsenal or have, even if it's a red, you kind of bait that you've got more resources at the end of your turn. Like if you ever fully tap out, you're just like showing them your hand, and I think that's just a trap. So yeah, the list was just, I just got the cards in the right order, and it was like Sigil of Cycles, then my next turn was like Claw, Swing Big, and then it was Shadow Ram Horror into a Graveling Grout. It was just like everything ran like so nicely. I just outvalued them, and then when they popped off, they hit 2 potions, so that was pretty big as well. You gotta take those.
Absolutely, dude. Screw the Kanos. All right, so then some of the other equipment outlying here: hooves, Spoiled Skull, Gambler's Gloves. Spoiled Skull, obviously AB1 piece for our like Florian matchup, right? Verdance. Did you find yourself taking it in for like the flexibility, long game, action point, pull, pulping, wild ride, blood rush?
So yeah, it's like my main attraction to that. I think because I test with Sam Parry so much. Shout out, he's a huge Enigma player. And I think Spoiled Skull is just like so good in that matchup compared to the other option within Flashback. So it was like mainly for Enigma, but I got it. I feel like I had so much equipment in my sideboard, but I was also just like, the only thing I'm looking at right now is like sinks for in case I see the Dio. And round one I sat opposite the Dio and was like, oh man, I should have brought those sinks. And I still fatigued him without them. And then round two comes up and it's Kano, and I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't board those sinks in and put the AD in the spell void, right? So yeah, like Spoil Skull is just great, and I think while Enigma's still a threat, like it just needs to stay in. Like it's good into Florian and Verdance and stuff as well, right?
Absolutely.
Hooves I brought into against Kano. That was literally it, to be honest. I think in today's meta, like the block value, whether you're against like Jarls or like Syndras or whatever, the block value of Scabs is too good, unfortunately. And I hate gambling, I hate rolling dice, but I love it, but I hate it.
Bro,
but,
you're on the wild ride version. What are you talking about?
I tell you what you gotta do, you gotta go, hey, I just need to play 5 games and send it, and
sure.
it doesn't matter, it's fine. I did the same thing, I went 6-1 with Levia at ProQuest last season, and I lost to Matt Folks in the final of Mana Screw's ProQuest, and I had the exact same mentality of like, I'm just gonna send it, like it's fine.
Dude, let him roll your Scabs for you. Like he runs hot, baby.
Yeah. And that was it as well. It was Plymouth PQ last season. The one's just gone. I won with Florian in draft and on Bristol, and then we played in Plymouth on the Sunday. And because I'd already got the ticket to Pro Tour, I was like, I'm just gonna play this like super aggro Levia. I went 5-0 in Swiss, and then the one Aurora snuck in at top 8 and got me, and I was like, like any other deck, I was feeling great against that day as well. But the Aurora got me. But,
dude, that matchup is just getting worse, is the unfortunate truth. Oh well.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that.
All right, and then you've also got Gamblers, and you said you knew there was a local Prism player or two. Is that basically it?
Yeah, 100%. That's the only matchup it came in for. You're just priced into rolling. Like I remember, like way back in the day when I played at North in Manuscrew as my local. Like back when we had like the original Prism, we had like a Prism player that was like, bro, like Levia's so busted, man. It's so annoying. All you do is roll dice, and I'm like, you're the one making me do this. Like I don't want to do this either.
Yep.
I have to because your deck is so busted. And we had like a big spat because it was just like, I'm playing Levia and you're telling me that my deck's busted.
Yep.
Like, off you go.
Don't worry, brother. I've fought those battles so often. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so crazy. But
and then it was always against like the cringiest Prism player that you'd roll the 1 into a 1. It's like, come on, why couldn't I lose to a better Prism? Like I'm fine with that, but this guy, I roll a 1 into a 1. Screw that, dude. Oh man. All right, dark days. We don't have to think about that.
Yeah, it's a lot easier now. With 32 health, it's like it's cruising.
Well, so did you roll Scabs much then? What was your hit ratio, you think?
So across the day, I think I rolled, I want to say 6 times in was it 8 games? Yeah. 6, 7, yeah, 8 games. So about 6 times. I rolled once into a KO when he like full blocked a Blood Rush turn. You just left with a big hand. I rolled a 1. I was like, cool, let's go. I lost that game. And then in the top 4, I played the same KO. And I rolled a 1, but we still got it.
Yes.
Still got it. So even skipping a turn, we still got that. It's fine. Because I've like never lost to a KO either. So
that's a hard matchup to lose.
Yeah, like I was just like, how do I lose? Like, how do I explain that I shouldn't lose this matchup? But then, luckily, it didn't matter. I got him at top 4, so it was okay. And then I rolled it like 4 times against the Prism. Because it's just like every turn I'm just gonna roll because I don't trust Prisms as much as I don't trust Kanos. I'm like, if I take my foot off the gas for like 1 second, like you can just do something stupid and crazy, and I hate it. And I didn't miss. Like I didn't need the gambler's gloves, to be honest. It was like 4, 5, 5, and then
you were just fated to win that day, dude. Honestly.
Yeah, it just like Plasma. I mean, my first moment I prayed to Blasmo was literally like the top 4 was like we finished super quick the KO night, and then it was just it was Syndra versus Prism, and I was just there like, if Syndra wins, I'm just gonna go. Like, there's no, like this deck doesn't beat that deck. But if it's Prism, we're cooking, and yeah, luckily the Prism got there. So.
Thank God there was no collusion to like scoop to the Syndra just to fuck over Levia.
Yeah.
That's something that would happen to me locally, dude. It's rough out here. All right, James. So your round 1 in the tournament was Dash.io, as you were telling us.
Yeah.
Do you know if you went first or second?
I went first. I think it's good to go first because you don't care that they're going second and getting to attack you anyway. Like, if you let them go first, then they can just like Arsenal and have a 5-card hand, or they just set up an item, like worst case scenario. And I quite like baiting because this guy had no idea I was going to try and fatigue him, and I think a lot of players don't think Levia can fatigue. So it was quite funny. I drew a Blood Rush and I just sent it. And I know we never send a Blood Rush turn 0 ever because we can't play a card after that. But it was like, I'm going to do 5 and I'm going to do 5. And he was like, give you 2 cards, give you 1 card. I think his 4th card was an item. But immediately I've taxed him 3 cards from his deck, and I think red or something. And like he's like in the mindset for at least a couple of turns that I'm either going to try and value him or I'm going to try and race him, which I think is also huge because it takes him a little while to like at least 2 or 3 turns to go, oh, he's fatiguing, and that is like quite big as well. I think because he's not pitch stacking, he's not like trying to sit on arsenals or anything like that. He just goes for it. So
yeah, well, especially since you don't have like the sideboards in the list, it's hard for them to immediately read that because your hands might just suck, and so you're blocking. Like that's totally what Levia does anyway.
Like and you don't want to turn on blood debt straight away, so you're just like swinging a claw, you know, stuff like that.
So sideboard wise, what did you end up with? Because trying to take out all the non-blocks, you're still left with the Deadwoods, Doomsday, and Reckless. Is that about right?
Yeah, literally. Yeah, it's anything that I could take out for a block card came in, and I just kept the blue ones that blocked still a little bit. So I was close to taking out the Mark of the Beast as well, instead of the non-block. But I was just like, if I have to block with it and it goes to banish, then at least it's blocked, saved 3 life in that moment.
Yeah, you might go from 14 to 13. It's possible. Trigger the Demi
exactly,
anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was literally just like hope I don't, and I didn't see. I think I saw a Deadwood like on that first turn with Blood Rush, and then I didn't see one for ages. So it was quite lucky. I did make the misplay. I think after my Blood Rush turn on turn 1, I arsenaled a red Dread Screamer for no reason, but I was just like, I kind of got to keep up this illusion in my head. I was probably playing myself a bit like, I'm going to arsenal this card, and then I was like, man, like that's a prime spot to like hide a non-block, right?
Yeah, that's true.
What I realized as well in testing is that what's quite funny with this idea is that if you go turn 0, if you got on the play, or if you draw up from turn 1, you can just call to the grave one of your non-blocks and just drag them out of the deck.
Yep.
Also which is really nice. Yeah.
All right, so round 2, Kano. You know if you went first or second?
I went first.
That's right, because you were saying Sigil of Cycles.
Yeah, Sigil of Cycles busted, mate.
Okay, and equipment-wise, you had all this. You brought in the Pulpings, I'm assuming?
Yes, yeah.
And you took out the Hungerings, you said?
Yeah, I took out Hungerings, and then I think I added a Ghostly.
Ghostly? Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, for that aggro, but yeah.
All right, anything to note beyond what you're kind of telling us about this matchup?
I just went so quick, man.
Went so quick.
Yeah, it was like
dude. Brian Gottlieb would be rolling his eyes. He hates when Kano's make it on stream. Just starts grumbling. Why is anyone playing this deck? Who wants to play for 5 minutes, guys? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
It's legitimately scary, and I think for me, it established Sigils as like not just a meme. Like some people are saying, it's like a meme card, and I think in those matchups where either you've like presented loads of damage and you have this redundancy in your hand, or in the matches where you just need to race as soon as you get out of the gates, like it's so good.
All right, round 3, you played Mario, which is super exciting. I don't have a lot of experience at all versus Mario. How did this one go? First, second, and then story time.
Did I go? I think I went second.
Yeah,
I believe. I could be talking complete waffle there.
I mean, with an aggro version, you like ideally want to anyway. To be fair.
Yeah, exactly. So this was another Bristol local as well as the DO. So it's super aggressive into me. We'd played once at an hour before. I sideboarded in, I want to say Howl and Guardian for a couple of
Howl's questionable in that matchup actually, but
100%. Yeah, like I think if I went back I'd add the Ghostly because he was so aggro and I wasn't prepared for him, because I think at the Armory it was still aggro, but it felt a bit more value. And then maybe got my head a bit because he sat down and was like, oh, I'm going for a different plan this time. And I was like, okay, that's sus, because we like really went at it at the Armory on Thursday before. So maybe he played me a bit, but it was, yeah, I think Ghostly's probably good, or like just keep the wild rides and just race, because they can do some really scary stuff. Like, it was probably one of the closest games of the day. I think I ended up on like 5 health. And again, I got Reckless killed him on that one.
Let's freaking go.
Yeah, so that was good. There was a turn that I think he might have misplayed. It was a hard one, but he got the he bonzed me and got to choose. It was like a red hungering. I think it was a Wrecker Romp or a Sigil of Cycles, a blue pitch, and I want to say like a yellow Graveling. And he took the red hungering, which I wasn't on Arsenal, so it's fine, because I had a might token, so I just clawed for 4, but I was at 15 or something, so I just flipped.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Like, this is fine for me, actually. So he forced me to flip. No, I think, to be fair, I was on like 16 or 17, so it was I took a few bits of damage, but I think against Assassins you have to, because of the flick knives and everything anyway. So yeah, I don't know how he'd play that differently, but it didn't feel bad to lose the hungering in that position, really. So that was pretty big.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think into Mario, like, they can't really pivot to blocking you out extremely well. Like, they're better than... It's tough. The Assassins are all over the place, but like Azuri will fatigue you 1000% when you flip, because every card blocks. She has all the D-reacts. New is questionable, like sometimes the Chi will get there. Mario is like pretty stuck on mostly 3 blocks, like some 2 blocks, but yeah, I just don't have enough experience in that matchup to really like know what feels confident. So sometimes you just got to play in the moment, and hey man, you got there. But you didn't get there round 4. Unfortunately, it was KO. Do you know if you went first or second?
In that matchup, I went second. No, first. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say, if you go second to KO, you should.
I Sigil of Cycles, and he like had to look at the card and read it, and was like, oh. I think I've sort of gone over it. It was very close, 1 card away from Reckless. I had to flip with just a husk and a yellow hungering in.
Oh man,
so it was like not the best flip, but
not good enough. Yeah. If you flip with Guardian in that matchup, it's like a 100%er. It's so hard to lose.
Oh yeah.
But you gotta get there. You gotta call to the grave it or discard, play it first cycle. All that's actually fine, to be fair, because 2 card block 6, like that is kind of the matchup anyway. Do you know what you sideboarded?
Yeah, so this was the generic plan of 2 wild rides out for it was the D-React and the Ghostly.
Interesting.
Which I quite liked. I think it was good. Like, it's one of those matchups where you can race, but like I feel much better getting to the end game. Like, so you sort of start. You have to like. It's really vibes based, as we like to say, because it's like you have to start pushing them and trying to whittle them down to the point where you're doing 2 card hands, because your 2 card hands are better than theirs. But you also want to get to that point as quickly as you can, but then you want to then start blocking loads, because you block way better than they do, and you've got pretty much guaranteed Blasmo flip whenever you want it in that matchup, so you can really like sit back and rely on that. Interesting.
I almost would think you go for like pulpings and side out wild ride entirely. I mean, that matchup is, I think, probably going to become more popular again. KO is definitely more playable right now.
He's looking good. And I think, pulping in for Wild Ride is probably correct, 100%, because the only reason that you'd play Wild Ride is against decks that are going to be running D-React, right? So that's definitely the correct decision there as well. I don't think I did that at the time.
Okay. Yeah, I think the edits with your list right now, I'd bring in both pulpings, drop the Wild Ride, and send packing, because KO just has like so much armor. You throw the send packing, they just block. They really don't care. And sometimes they can actually get a benefit from that when you're in the brute mirror, and like brutes have shitty hands. Then you just kind of like know you can fix it with a send packing. I've definitely used that to my advantage, like versus brutes. Maybe the KO thinks about that into Levia, but you are only running the one, so like maybe it doesn't happen anyway. But I don't think it's
I think good. I did play it out against him, but again, it was after, I think it was a Wild Ride or a Sigil's turn, because it was definitely after a Claw, and maybe even I think it was a Dread Screamer, Claw, so it's Sigils, and then send packing, and it got a pretty good card out of him because he couldn't block at that point because he had non-blocks. But I can't remember what card it was, but it was definitely like a red or yellow Bare Fangs or Wild Ride or something. So it was a good hit. But again, you have to sort of throw it at the end of a chain, which is why it's kind of like, I don't think I'd ever run it as a 2 of or a 3 of, because you really only want it in those exact moments, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah, and actually, to be fair, KO can be baited to use his armor in different places because he proactively wants to break Sash, or like he wants the buff from Apex on like a CNC or whatever. So
yeah,
maybe it actually still gets points. But all right, then you've got round 5, Azalea. Please tell me you went first.
I went first.
Oh, thank God, dude.
Yeah.
Thank God. Whew, you're like up 10 percentage points just by just by that alone.
Yeah. This is Husk, obviously. Yeah.
Did you bring in the Ghostly? Or...
Yeah, I brought in Ghostly and took down the non-block. Yeah, this game was pretty rough. It was just like my deck just sung, and I think she had a couple of turns that she just couldn't play anything. She just had to pass. So kind of had to just watch as I just kept throwing big attacks. And again, I think Sigil Cycle's proving its worth here because you can't always fill your graveyard if they dominate stuff. But like playing that out early, you just feel like, oh sweet, I've got 2 cards in grave already. Let's go.
All right, so you did make top 8 at that point, X1. You faced Dawnblade Dorinthia. Did you know it was Dawnblade Dorinthia, or just Dory?
I did my research.
Okay, good. Did you go first or second? Hopefully second.
Yeah, I went. Hang on. Yeah, no, I went second.
Solid. All right, so this matchup, I think, is so free for Levia, but you need to be very smart with your armor decisions. But generally, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is how I like to play it. With Dorinthia, when your hands are live, you just do not care about anything they do. Don't give them even a single card. Keep it on your end, maybe be a little bit greedy for it, maybe it sinks into a claw, reset arsenal, whatever. Just completely ignore what they do. Let them get their turn. They're probably off a few points because you're not letting them trigger reprise. Maybe they were keeping an extra card because they thought you were going to block a certain way. Then they ramp ahead with the Dawnblade counter. You're next, but trade a bunch of damage in doing so. They keep a hand because they want to push that Dawnblade counter even further. And then you just commit armor. Not all your armor, but like a huge percentage of it. Either like the flesh bag, card from hand, whatever. All of a sudden, they cannot keep their Dawnblade counter. And they have to get caught in the same cycle of, okay, well, next turn I need to keep a large hand because I'm trying to get a Dawnblade counter. Oh, I got a Dawnblade counter. I need to keep a large hand again to try to keep it. And then you commit your other half of the armor. And if you can line that up with even Guardian, like, it's so insanely oppressive.
Yeah.
That's how I play it. How did you play it?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much like a good friend of mine, Steve's been a Dory main for like almost as long as I've been a Levia main, so I've played the matchup a ton. The armor's insane, and the fun thing with that, I'd say to like my noob advice for people first using Scowling Flesh Bag is always like, if you're unsure, just try and like IP them, like have them on Arsenal and like with a card or two in hand, and then you throw it, especially if they've taken damage. Like that's just you've auto won the value there because they end their turn with the card in hand and their Arsenal already full, and you're just like laughing. I think basically my approach is generally like block 9 or 12 on their first ever attack, or like their first turn cycle attack. So you've got like 3 or 4 cards in just in case they pivot to like fatigue or something. And then you just go ham, and then as soon as they try and keep loads of cards, I just don't block because I'm just like, well, at least 1 or 2 of those are going to be reprised, and then you just IP'd yourself. So in like this top 8 game, it was like I think 3 times he IP'd himself, either through Scowling or me just not blocking him, which is huge. And then like you say, you've just got this huge like equipment set that if you really need to, you can just throw it in front of something. But generally speaking, if you've got a Blood Rush or a Shadow Realm Horror or whatever, you can just say like no blocks and just take damage, give them a counter, and just say, if you want to keep that counter,
you're gonna have to eat this.
Way above rate damage from me, right? And your damage is way below rate. So and like I got the Guardian like turn 2 or 3, whacked it in Arsenal, played a slow turn cycle, and then they literally front buff to 6 on their first attack, and I just went, okay, Guardian. And then they had 2 cards in the hand, and they went, pass. And I was like, sweet. Yep,
because you can hit, it's like Singing, Steel Blade, it's like Iron Song Response, even like Glint, right? They don't run too many reprise these days, but Even those are huge. Like the time you blank a Singing Steelblade is already insane. Because that's like the best card in their deck, but only if you play into it.
Yeah.
All right, so then we're at 59. Did you bring in the Howl or the Ghostly for this story?
I bought Ghostly actually, yeah.
Okay, because I'll generally hedge Howl if I don't know the door, but if you know they're Dawnblade going to play more aggro, Ghostly makes a lot of sense.
Quite aggro. He threw out quite a few D-reacts early, and I was like, if he pivots it to fatigue at any point, this is going to get a bit tight, because I started like really wailing down on him quite early. But he didn't. He just kept taking damage to hold reprise cards, and we just win those value trades every single time, I think. And especially, like I said earlier, like the turn after I flip, him having a 5-card hand and sending a Dawnblade for 6, and me just going Guardian from Banish, and he just literally extended the fist bump over that, like, and that sort of sums up that matchup, I think.
So then we move on to top 4. It was the same KO player or just another KO?
Same KO, yeah.
Same KO. And so did you run everything the exact same Ghostly Guardian?
Yeah.
All right.
100% the same. Like I said, I feel so favored into KO. It's probably Levia's best matchup, and I was annoyed that I lost to one for the first time ever. Respect to Aaron for bringing that out of me. But so I had Reckless on top of my deck when I lost, so it was like, I don't feel bad going into this. I feel like I can get this. And the first time we played, he resolved 3 Blood Rushes. I resolved 2.
Holy crap!
One was like, I had to pitch a yellow, which I hate doing, but we were racing, and I drew into 2 reds, so I was just
it's over.
No, I pitched a blue, so it was a blue, but I basically had to go like claw, and then it was at 14, so I was like, I can go like Boneyard, because it was 2 Boneyards I drew into for 8, and I was like, no, I think I just want to, like, I'm at 14, I just want to send another claw, and then I'll just transform. But in this game, I resolved 2, and he resolved 1, and brute things,
Brute things.
Yeah.
You've got 2 claws, he's got 1. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I think it was like literally on a Sigil or Cyber turn, it was like, it's nice that you get to do that twice. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all right, so then you make the finals, and this one's insane. Like, you got not only a super favorable matchup, but you're also riding this high. You're on Levia, and you know that they just beat a Syndra for you. Like, literally everything's lining up. Did you know if you go first or second in this one?
First, yeah.
Okay. Yep. First, say pass. Don't let them develop. Absolutely. Okay, so I assume Hungering Demagon made the first appearance.
It did.
Hell yeah.
In a big way. It made a big splash.
And then you kept in draw discards, you were saying. What did you side out then? This matchup?
I didn't side out. I went 61 in this matchup, actually.
Oh, you wild man.
I know, I'm crazy. I just thought, like, the one time it's ever been close, I think I was playing like Rhino or something, it wasn't even Levia, but the one time I've had a really close game against Prison, they basically like almost fatigued me from poppers. So I was like, I should just win this matchup like 99% of the time. But the one-off chance I don't, I'm gonna get fatigued. So when you're in that headspace of like you're about to play your RTN final, that weird noise goes around your head and you're like overthinking everything. So I'm just gonna go to 61 for like the first time.
I would have sided out the Reckless Swing, like legitimately.
I tell you what, I should have, because I discarded it off a Wild Ride like turn 1 or 2. I was like, this is great.
Saying. But it's very hard to ever win the game with Reckless anyway, because they can, just soul. If they even have soul, to be fair, that's also tough. But you never know. So then how'd it go? Was it as free as you were hoping?
It was the land of the free. I felt like I was an American in that moment.
You don't want to be here.
I literally, I sat down and we chatted a bit about the matchup and stuff. Like, Tim is a really good friend of mine. Again, not local to Bristol really. Anyway, I think he's a Manchester player, but he's a good lad. And we played it out, and I think my turn 0 again was Sigil, and then it was Hungering Demagon in my opening hand. So it was
what
beautiful.
A combo.
It was like, I don't really want to send anything at you, just in case you have like the Life Soul, or what the
Soul Shield.
Soul Shield, yeah. And I sent it, and he had the D-React, he had Soul Shield, so I was like, of course, that's fine, whatever. But I don't care, because I've got this.
You've got it in graveyard, yeah, absolutely.
And I replayed it 3 times, dude.
Oh, that's disgusting.
It killed. He blocked it once, and then 2 times. I think the first time it hit, he was like, wait, what? And like had to reread it, and I was like, yeah, like you lost it. Like it was on the chain, whatever. And then the third time he let it hit and lost a soul again. So it was like
it's already so
like,
hard,
all
yeah.
these ways to gain soul because it's so hard to gain soul against me. And then I've just got this recursive piece that just keeps coming up, and I'm rolling every turn, right, just to try and play it again. And
that's hot.
Crazy hard.
So then that's it. Like you just won the whole damn thing. Look at that, easy, easy. Swingus, Biggus RTN winner. And that's it, people. That's how you win an RTN with Levia. You go up with your friends, you just vibe out, and then you get a freebie finals. Easy.
Some prayers to Plasma Fet in there as well.
Yeah, pray to Plasma Fet. Yeah. Actually, there's another thing to talk about. How often were you actually using the Demi Hero? You know, it's very critical when it happens. Is it something you're playing for every single game?
Not every game. It's just I see it as like obviously in some matchups that generally speaking, like the matchups that are hard are ones where you want to flip, right? The ones where you're gonna start blocking out and all that, you want to flip to Blasmo as much as you can. Redeemed, I love flipping to Redeemed, like against, you know, like Florian or Jarl or something like that. It feels so good. Against Enigma, I love flipping Redeemed. I think it's like way better than flipping Blasmo, to be honest. But at the event, I flipped 3 or 4 times and it was Blasmo each time for, like I said, it was normally 2 or 3 blood debt, nothing incredible, but then
that's all you need.
Against Midori, it was the 10 blood debt and it was like, just let's just go. But he didn't even let me have a turn with it because he was just like, yeah, I've just lost. I was like, yeah, okay.
So no redeemed the entire event?
No redeemed, unfortunately.
Dude, that's right. Who wants to be redeemed anyway? Come on. Sink deeper into blood debt. Yeah. Well, as you go deeper on this journey into Levia, are there any edits you would make to the list before you send it off into the ether? Give it your blessings and hopefully people win. Well, I guess RTN season's over, but, you know, win their armories and stuff.
Yeah. So for armories, I'd say Reckless could easily be the Diabolic offering that we spoke about. Like I say, that was very much a me choice because I've not run Reckless for 12 months at least. And or an Eye of Ophidia if you've got one, right? Like it's that slot, I'd say. Outside of that, it was just the deck kind of just did the thing that I wanted it to do. It's like a sort of best of both worlds, you know, like you can really, it's not quite the best of both worlds, but you can try and be the aggro deck and you can try and do this slower sort of blockier blood debt thing, and it's pretty good at doing both, I think. So yeah, Sigil is a really good card. I'd say 2 is probably where it should be, but we'll see how it adapts as the league takes the list further.
What about trade-in? You slotting that one in next?
Trade-in. Garbage, dude.
Whatever, dude. I got second place freaking SCG Con with it, bro. So that was it was like 3 years ago, but we're bringing it back.
Yeah, I remember. I literally still have my foil trade-ins because of thinking, this is the truth. But then Sigil Sagas came out. It's just
it's a better trade-in. It's got a Marvel. Like, come on.
Yeah, come on. Easy. I need to go buy mine now, actually.
They are way too expensive because of, unfortunately, the video. People bought these out. They were like $11. Now they're like $45. So good luck. It sucks, dude. I don't even have mine.
So much sway, bro. So much sway.
Okay.
Hit me up next time you say something like that. You know?
I know. I manipulate the market for all these bad Levia cards. Next one's what? Shadow of Blasphemy. We need to make that card not worth like a penny.
I hate that card. So
All right, James. Well, this was a pleasure, my friend. Any last shout outs before we let you go? Celebrate that win. Put the Snapdragons on your shoulder and cheer around the town.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Obviously, long time watcher, long time enjoyer, long time member of the league. Shout out to Bristol Bad Beats, amazing community there, and the guys in Manascrew, where I originated my fab journey from, and of course Team Toxic as well, who I do a lot of testing with. So yeah, thanks for all of those guys, and Ben Westmore as well, who is like the Levia guy that I speak to all the time, and we just get crap from everyone for being Levia guys. So
Levia guys,
shout out to all the Levia guys and gals out there.
Levia guys and gals, but that's all right. Okay, way to botch the outro, James.
I know. Let's go again.
Okay. Well, cool. It was a pleasure. Thanks for doing this so quickly. Technically this is still Sunday, so maybe someone else squeezes out a win, but you might just be the only one this entire season, and that's a pretty damn cool feat. So congrats again, my friend, and we will see you in the next one.